A Sacred and Terrible Air. Written by Robert Kurwitz. Edited by Martin Luiga. Published by Zaum, 2013. Translated by Group Ibex. Read by Frank. Chapter 1. Charlotteshire. It was a popular vacation area just outside of Vasa that swallowed the 4 Lund girls. Along with their little bones and tan-lined skin, an entire era vanished. 6 kilometres of winding coastline, a swimming spot popular in the 50s, rows of changing cabins, reeds rustling in the wind. Go there and find the age that conservatives long for. When parents can send children to the beach unsupervised, 2 real for ice cream and bus fare in the pockets of their summer pants, Mum and Dad would shake their heads in worry, keeping their children hidden from the news from Messina, from Grad, from Gottwald, where every week, it seemed to them, someone's wee skeleton was found buried inside a stove wall. There, every week, someone's daughter escaped onto the street after 30 years of captivity in a cellar, and cried for help. But not here. Here we have a social democracy, and the soft peach blossoms of social democracy, innocuous social programs, these progressive things make a broken human soul feel better. The uncanny technical urge to construct a subterranean secret room with a ventilation system where the air ducts on the front lawn are disguised as clay miniature windmills will never reach these outskirts. Those dark, raging fevers of the mind simmer down in the cool mist here. The breath of distant blue glaciers freezes the sick thoughts that reside in a man's head. Vasa, a better place to live. And then, one Tuesday morning, with white clouds in the blue sky, 4 sisters, Madge, 4, Anni-eiln, 12, Malin, 13, and Charlotte Lund, 14, go to the beach together for a swim. They take with them 2 real in cash, 4 sets of swimming clothes, something to eat and drink, and 2 large picnic blankets in 2 beach bags. At 9:30 they board the horse car in Lavisa, a suburb of Vasa. The tram driver remembers them well. Today, 20 years later, getting to talk about it is the highlight of the day for Roland, who lives in a retirement home. The oldest bought the tickets for all of them. To Charlotteshire, 40 cents, 10 cents a ticket. Were they to go even one stop further, it would have been 20 cents a ticket. I can recall it very well. The rural lines start there with the rates twice as high. But Lord, she was a girl as pretty as a picture, with such good manners as well. The oldest, Charlotte, the old man rumbles rhythmically. I didn't know back then. Read it later in the paper. Then I went straight to the police without delay. Every second counted. At 10:25 the girls disembark at Charlotteshire Beach. One by one they thank the tram driver, well raised as they are. The beach is hot this morning, and there are few people around. Next to encounter the girls is the ice cream shop clerk, Agnetha. At the time, 20 years ago, Agnetha is still in university, and she's working at the ice cream shop as a summer job. Malin and Anni-eiln buy 4 ice creams, 2 vanilla, 1 lime, 1 chocolate. The other girls are not visible from the shop. The window blinds are rolled down for protection against the sun. The only uncovered window is next to the counter, with products on display. As it's a work day, the clientele is sparse. Young Agnetha knows the girls and their well-established flavour preferences. Peppermint, Malin's favourite, is out of stock that day, which causes some confusion. In addition to the ice cream, the girls buy 3 meat piroshkis. This raises the tab to one real and 50 cents. The girls leave the shop, and from the uncovered window next to the counter, Agnetha notices a man accompanying them. Agnetha is incapable of remembering anything else about the man. Age, height, clothing, whether there was more than one man or as Agatha started feeling later, whether there was even a man at all. This is the last time anyone sees the girls. The 4 daughters of Anne Margaret Lund, who had been sworn into office as Education Minister 2 days prior, and paper industrialist Carl Lund, have vanished. The press starts a years-long love affair with the case. Every minute detail is brought out in the newspaper columns, carrying the Lund girls deep into the cultural memory. The disappearance becomes one of the most prestigious unsolved cases in the Real Belt. At about 12:40, 5 hours and 20 minutes before 6 o'clock, the time when the girls are expected home in Lovisa, and about 30 minutes before the ice cream shop, 3 boys sit in a living room. The room is gold-striped with sunlight through the slatted blinds, and the boys are classmates with 2 of the sisters. The tall, freckled one has the telephone receiver pressed to his ear. "Hey, call already," urges the blonde one. "Well, it wouldn't be very chic of me to call 3 hours earlier than agreed." The fat Ilmaran immigrant pulls the tall one by his sleeve.
"Really, Tereesz, call. Something's wrong." I
know, says Tereesz, and the steel rotary dial jingles under his finger. Now the terrible noise of time approaches, the most violent sound in the world. It is not light that spills from the windows into the golden room, but a super deep paleness. All distances there are insurmountable, and between each object there is horror vacui. Chapter 2. Class Reunion. Inayat Khan pours himself some mores. Some of the pink liquid drips from his chin onto his cravat. His suit is ill-fitting, and the buttons are straining. It makes him look like an idiot.
A fat idiot with a bright blue tie. I shouldn't have come.
Go anyway, you'll see your friends. Who do you have there? That von Fersen. He was a nice boy, and...
He wasn't my friend. He was a psycho-terrorist. I despise him, that arrogant little upstart.
Oh, he's grown into a very respectable man.
He's grown up to be a ruthless careerist, a vile guy, a racist too. I remember what he called me. Do you want me to tell you what he called me, Mother?
And Tereesz and Jesper. Listen, Jesper is famous now, too.
Camo shit. Mom, he called me camo shit.
Khan watches the magnetic tape slide against the reader. The plastic discs spin hypnotically in the machine. Magnet becomes music. A slow song. And for a moment it seems to him as if those spots of light are creeping up again, on the walls and floor of the assembly hall. Like stars in the sky, or a swarm of jellyfish deep underwater. Spots sliding under Malin Lund's white dress, his hand getting sweaty on her waist. What to say? Time stands still, the music fades, and Khan's thick-rimmed dye-materialist glasses reflect the dark green eyes of Malin Lund. Ah! A woman, probably from another class in their year, comes to a stop beside him. She starts to say something, but then pretends to reach for a snack instead. Neither of them came. Khan is alone. The pantsuit-wearing woman is there in her pantsuit. Can't just stand around. You have to manage somehow. He pulls a magic pen from his pocket. There, under the glass, Sapomat Kaczynski, the chairman of the Presidium of the People's Republic of Samara, smiles his hearty black and white smile of history, right into the camera. To his left, leaning against the ship's railing, a rat-faced man in the black leather coat of the secret police.
Behold, the elusive Commissar,
says Khan, turning the pen. The rat-faced man under the glass vanishes. Only the chairman of the Presidium, Sapomat Kaczynski himself, stays on deck, alongside Ukotomsky, a groveler, exceptionally adept at delivering embarrassing criticisms. Where there used to be a commissar, there is now an empty railing. You can also see the part of the bridge that the commissar hid before. Very interesting, says the woman in the pantsuit, and peers over her shoulder. Khan wipes away a lock of hair stuck to his forehead. In his other hand he still holds the pen, which he now looks at with a dreamy smile, muttering to himself.
There is a commissar, there is no commissar.
The smile flickers for a moment and then disappears from the man's double-chinned face. Khan's big sad eyes look at the bustle of adults on the hall floor. There, the class of 56 calls each other's names. Handshakes are exchanged. Children's pictures are shown inside wallets. Commissar. No commissar. A man in his 30s sits on the parquet floor in a spacious room. The parquet is freshly varnished. Blonde bangs fall on the interior designer's forehead. He sits cross-legged, thin white hands in his lap. When he looks up, the room's interior design is reflected back at him in the floor-to-ceiling windows. In the gloom behind him appear the minimal skeletons of designer furniture, a kitchenette with a stone countertop, and analog system speakers like two mute obelisks. A lone spirit hangs over the room. A beige Perseus black peacoat hangs on the rack, and in the shoe rack are 3,000 real white chamois leather shoes. His hand is on the dimmer switch, and the light fades. The reflection of the room disappears, and in its place is a sea of ferns outside the floor-to-ceiling window. The dark green expanse dissipates into the darkness under the spruce trees. Usually he listens to music sitting here, but tonight it's so quiet you can hear the rain pattering on the ferns. In his 20s, while he was developing the world-famous Ildad minimal design language with his associates, Jesper de la Gardie was also doing a lot of nose candy. In those days, they would bounce between the bathrooms of the Architects Association Cafe and those of the prestigious Interior Design Office, congratulating each other for inventing the future and sipping bottled water. This project we are doing, it rules! Through the language of shapes, we are defining human visual perception for the next century. And, one day I'll write a book about this. Tasteless people are cruel people. Evil is tasteless. Is it really so unthinkable, then, that simple and clean interior design will make the world a better place? Nose candy went out of fashion, but bottled water remained. Jesper takes a sip and stands up, adjusts the tie knot in the V-neck of his sweater, picks up the receiver, and calls himself a taxi. The concrete cube beneath the spruce trees goes dark as the machine whirs away into the shadowy grove with Jesper in it. A puff of fuel fumes remains behind in the yard. In the empty house between the glass walls, the phone rings. A white apparatus sitting on a wooden tabletop, with an extraordinarily beautiful crane. It is dark. International Collaboration Police Agent Tereesz steps off the huge scale of the train carriage and onto the floating station. The rain is picking up steadily, making the steel monoliths of the carriages shine. They tower above a platform suspended beneath the sky by a tangle of cables. Steam rises from the magnets underneath the carriages, hot from the current, and drifts like smoke along the asphalt of the platform. Measurejet takes his luggage from the concierge and moves with the crowd to the station building. A coin falls into the metal slot of a payphone. The dial tone sounds, and the ICP agent practices saying hello into the receiver in a normal and relaxed manner. The freckles on his cheeks and the bridge of his nose have completely disappeared over time. The line of his mouth is permanently anxious. No one answers. The man takes the guide with the address from his briefcase and decides in favour of the tram. The dark shape of the floating train station towers over the city. Glowing elevator cars descend from its belly down to Vasa like dandelion seeds. In one of them, Asian Mejek watches how the only metropolis in the Nordics glows beneath his feet. The elevator window drips with rain. In the background, in the North Sea, a low, flat city disintegrates into an archipelago of light. Telefunken's slender mast rises alone from the saturnine green mass of the buildings. Motorways meander there, glowing golden, the traffic on them smooth as sleep. Königsmalm is there, the commercial centre, and Salem is directly below, with the coloured lights of the immigrant district flowing on the asphalt. Horse cars appear from under the riding hall awning, toil up the slopes, and disappear clip-clopping under the shiny green chestnut trees. The tracks disperse beneath the tens and hundreds of parks of Lovisa, leading to the university islands and social housing districts, where the city quietly gives way to coniferous forests. Far away in the garden suburbs, the lights go out, and Mejek feels the vacation area shivering in the rain, empty beaches and pine forests. This is where the real Cutler begins. Though it is only now the end of September, already a great cold is approaching from the other side of winter's orbit. drawing over her black woodland expanses, her clearings and valleys. Chestnut leaves blow under the awning of the menage and into the waiting pavilion, where a kitten-voiced girl announces the route numbers and delays over the loudspeaker. The frame of the building echoes them back to her. Leaves stick to the glass of the pavilion and the windows of the horse cars. The air is full of their musty smell. The ICP agent enters a packed carriage, suitcase in hand. On top of the suitcase, the contours of the Isolas of the Real Belt form a bird of prey taking flight. The coat of arms of the ICP.
Private detective.
Khan lies. He's not a private investigator. The private investigator is a fantastic amalgamation. It borrows the obesity and oily hair from his own career as a disappearance memorabilia collector in his parents' basement, and mixes in the career of his more successful classmate, Tereesz, who works in the Missing Persons Department of the International Collaboration Police. The fantastic amalgamation has served Khan faithfully on many occasions. This is not one of those times. Pardon me, I didn't quite catch that. The woman in the pantsuit is distracted.
Private detective. More specifically, I'm looking for missing people. Then, when the police and law enforcement have given up, friends or families, mostly families, come to me, and then I do my best.
In the background, Sven von Fersen presents their former homeroom teacher with his collection of witty management articles, wearing quite the cosmopolitan face. You would never guess that, in his vocabulary, people with yellowish skin and exotic names were called camel shit. Uh-huh. She turns to Khan. So you're still searching for them, even now?
Yeah, okay, that was it at first, true. But I've learned that too, and one thing led to another.
The man in the light blue cravat is sweating. He's starting to lose his patience.
And besides, so what? Listen, half the conversations around here on that subject. Now tell me you're not interested.
First of all, half of the conversations here are not about this. You think they are, but they aren't. And secondly, of course I'm interested. But I think the whole thing is, well, sad.
What's sad?
This topic. The people who keep bringing it back up. People who still write to the newspaper they saw a woman somewhere who looked like what Malin or Annie would look like now, and so on.
Go fuck yourself.
The people in the immediate vicinity of the buffet table fall silent and look in the direction of Khan and von Fersen. The woman in the pantsuit becomes uncomfortable. She looks away. The sweating man in dye-materialist glasses shoves the remaining half of a pretzel into his cheek and sets off towards the cult room. The chestnut trees in front of the high school are swaying in the wind. Leaves blow onto the steps of the main entrance, across the sidewalks and puddles. The surface of the water ripples. The wheels of an abruptly stopped machine break the cones of light cast by the streetlights. The taxi door slams shut, and a 3,000 real pair of white chamois shoes steps into a puddle. The interior designer curses and takes 3 long steps. Indignant, he gives up on trying to shake off the mud, stuffs the folder under his arm, and walks up the stairs to the main entrance. It's warm inside, and it smells like glue. Jesper breezes through the lobby, the worn wooden floor creaking under his shoes. He takes a name tag from the smiling volunteer and puts it in the back pocket of his pants. Yearbook portraits and class pictures are lined up on a display stand. 8B. There's a skinny blonde boy with a head too big for his shoulders and bangs slicked back behind his ears. To his left is an overweight immigrant child from Ilmara with a dreadful cravat. Little Khan gazes past the camera with a nebulous look. The tall, fretted Koiko in the backmost beanstalk row had suggested to him he take off his glasses so he'd look less lame. Bit by bit, the man's gaze moves across the rows of 8B, anxiety rising in his heart. His imagination is already running ahead of him. Somewhere in the middle of this row of girls shines a massive nuclear fission cluster, a distant constellation, a matrimony of matter. It had been 8 years ago when Jesper's sharp visage had first appeared on the glossy cover of the monthly design magazine. Admittedly, the limelight had to be shared with 2 other coke-addled visionaries. There they were, the 3 of them on shoot, sitting on their flagship couch. The softbox diffused, Fucking Gaff played, and Pioneers, Future, decorous, and many other such things were written below, all of which he remembers very well. 2 hours later, Jesper sat alone in his glowing cube, a scrunchie in the palm of his hand, on a morbidly large stack of class photos and newspaper clippings. One look at the spruce trees swaying in the wind vanquished the temptation to check again to see if the scent had worn off. The scrunchie was sorted into the domestic waste section, and the girl's folder sorted under packaging. Jesper stood in the middle of the room and exhaled deeply. Enough of that. It was done with. But where are they? Why aren't they here? Why are neither of them here? Disappointed, Jesper disconcertedly takes a step back to the display stand to take care of this matter properly, to review all the pictures, when suddenly a 34-year-old man stops in the middle of the lobby. That man still lives with his mother. Early spring, 20 years ago. Little Iniyat Khan falls backwards into an ice-coated mud puddle. His reindeer sweater's dirty, and dark red blood drips from his nose. In the midst of numerous discouragements and worried recommendations to stay down, the boy still slowly pulls himself up, briefly slipping down now and again. Finally, he stands eye to eye with Sven von Fersen, only a few meters away. Dirt crusts on little Khan's face, hands rising into an incorrect fighting stance. His fists shake with anger and humiliation. "Listen, you know what he said, don't you?" Von Fersen starts up again. His nasty little lackey knows what Khan said, but asks anyway. "Tell me what he said, Sven." Sven is not stingy with his answers. "He walked Malin home and kissed her. You understand? Khan the cunt accompanied her home. Khan the cunt kissed her." There is a roar of laughter, and the lackey immediately retorts. "Why you gotta tell a sick story like that? You get what you deserve. When you make up something that disgusting, you get what you deserve. You think Malin likes hearing a gross story like that? Huh? Does she?" Tears of anger run down the cheeks of the boy in the reindeer sweater. Yesterday after school, Khan had let his imagination run wild. It had been a terrible mistake. The sun emerges from behind the clouds, and he already sees, a few dozen meters away from the spectators, how Malin Lund's blonde hair shines like a glorious halo. She blushes with shame. Charlotte, the oldest of the sisters, puts her hand on Malin's shoulders and, in their spring coats, they both turn their backs on him. "Shouldn't you have some, I don't know, camels on that sweater or something?" A scream like a curved sword reverberates through the schoolyard. Khan makes a desperate dash towards von Fersen. Although he slips a little on the way, in his mind's eye he still sees the sharp spear of Ramut Karzai, of Amistad's heroic epic, drilling towards his enemy's chest. The distance is shrinking, a life-threatening collision seems inevitable. But suddenly, out of the periphery of his anger-induced tunnel vision, an unknown actor appears and halts him, the other hand pressed as a stop sign against von Fersen's puffed-up chest. With arms outstretched and a blonde lock of hair falling in his face, Jesper spits out his gum and emits a barrage of "Damn it, Sven, don't fuck around" arguments. Khan tries to free himself from his deskmate's grip, his bruised cheek and bloody nose staining Jesper's shoulder. This is how they stand. The bell rings and the lunch break is over. As the schoolyard is emptying of children, Jesper wipes the shoulder of his sweater with a napkin. "So, did you kiss Malin or what?"
No, but I did walk her home. And it went well. Very well.
"Just not that well."
Yeah.
"That's the same shirt! Khan, tell me that's not the same shirt!"
Jesper!
Two adults stand in a coat room and shake hands for the first time in years. There's a smidgen of warmth in Jesper's wry smile. "I might have acted a bit impolitely when we last saw each other," he begins. "I understand now. It was a mistake." Khan just laughs it off. His few days old beard shakes along with his friendly double chin. "I left a bad impression." Having said that, Jesper's left wondering what he had planned next. "I have news. Something new." He points to the folder and looks at Khan inquisitively. "Or have you, I don't know, become a chef in the meantime?"
You know, I'm always hardcore.
Without the slightest acknowledgement of the class reunion, Khan grabs his jacket from the coat room and they head for the door.
Look, it's his appearing commissioner.
That's not too shabby.
I made one for Tereesz too. It's a special version. The same picture, but guess what happens if you turn it a little further?
What?
Hutomsky disappears too. One pigeon too. It's partly behind with Hutomsky.
Otherwise, there would be half a pigeon left hanging in the air.
Exactly.
Raindrops drip from Agent Mejek's umbrella. A puff of smoke lingers in the umbrella's canopy and then disappears into the wind. Holding an astra between his teeth, he folds the map and puts it in his briefcase. Two men run through the silvery curtain of rain, straight towards him across the lawn of the high school. The Koiko in the grey herringbone coat takes a step back. He makes room under the umbrella. It's immense. ICP standard issue. Did you apologize?
He apologized.
Khan answers for Jesper. Is it cool there? Mejek nods towards the school. Khan shakes his head. Let's go to the city instead, Jesper specifies. There's a place. A new place. Three men step under a large umbrella and out of focus. A volley of distant sleigh bells approaches, ringing like the silver curtains drawing close behind the friends' backs. 8 years ago. The needles dance at 12 decibels under their little lamps until the Stereo 8 format tape clicks against the magnetic reader. The beat is unbearably smooth, more modern than nose candy. Well, you never know. It's hard to say. The beat is local, originating in the world-famous recording studios of Vasa. It was made by a semi-mythical person, Fakengaff, who, although an Oranese immigrant, a disc jockey and a music producer, functions rather more like a group of people or a machine in the sky. The nose candy, on the other hand, came through an uncharted strip of pale on a pirate cruiser. It was made by the machete-wielding slave dreaming of a revolution, and by the overseer guarding the fields with a carbine. Fakengaff made the beat so that girls would start dancing, and boys would enjoy watching. The slave with the machete made the nose candy, so that La Puta Madre would not put his family in front of a firing squad. For 6 months the nose candy ripened on the high mountain plateau of Imala, under the rays of the golden sun. The sun was prevented from falling out of the turquoise sky by the world eagle and its 1,000-kilometre wingspan. The part where the beat seems to go underwater for half a minute, and then again, as unbelievable as it may be, returns even cooler, was whispered into Fakengaff's ear by the very soul of debauchery. She had the white wings of an angel, but the breath against the disc jockey's ear had been hot with passion, smelling of cinnamon and primal evil. My God, how pleasant is this numbness in my nose. My God, how cool is that part where the beat emerges from underwater. So sad, even cooler than before. How cool am I? I'm there on the cover. I'm so cool there on the cover. I'm a pillar of light, vertical, and I'm surrounded by a dark room. And that's it. There's nothing more. Do you understand? The guests sitting on Jesper's white divan cube and behind the multifunctional desk module share impressions of the World's Fair. Glasses are clinked together, too, in the display of champagne socialism. Jesper dances alone like a rare albino rooster. For the water bottle in his right hand, pearly drops fly onto the windows. Like a time that has already been and gone, the streets of Vasa slip by out the side window of the taxi. A large black horse snorts, steam rising from its nostrils. Something sweet seeps into the battered heart of the ICP agent. The rain stops, and the young people in the dark slowly close their umbrellas. Metro entrances, familiar place names. A girl on a bicycle turns into a side street, where yellow illuminated signs are steaming in the damp. Traffic is reflected in the windows of houses and closed shops, until the motorway rises above the footpaths. The passing city flashes through the cracks in the stone traffic barrier, and a small boy raves to Mejek from the window of a passing motor carriage. On the Königsmalm Bridge, the passing streetlights turn into a dotted line. The grey silhouette of a prestigious residential area towers above the water. Tereesz's home was there when he lived in Vasa as a child. Ahead, through the windshield of the motor carriage, the island district begins. 20 years ago it still had a shady reputation. As Jesper now explains, careful development and some breakthrough galleries have made Ostermalm the next trend district. Bourgeois Bohemia, you mean? The taximeter is ticking. The cabin is warm and dark. Jesper doesn't even acknowledge Tereesz's wit.
Hey, talk then.
Khan turns the mixed-topic conversation of urban development and class reunion in an unexpected direction. I need a projector. There is also a tape. I'll tell you more at Kino. Show us the hair tie. Show us the scrunchie. Tereesz joins in the begging. Ah, come on, don't start. I don't carry it with me. I threw it away. It was a very strange time in general. A sly smile appears on Khan's face.
Jesper, don't be a spoilsport.
Ah, don't be stingy. Show it to the class. Jesper looks out the side window. No. A quiet moment passes. The murmur of wheels on the road, the clicking of the turn signal. Khan and Tereesz look at each other with a grin, and Jesper looks out of the window with feigned indifference. Only after a while does he feel the responsibility of resuming the story weigh on his shoulders. So what did you tell Fersen? A detective story?
Scrunchy. Jesper, the scrunchy. Show it.
Resigned, the interior designer puts his hand into the bosom of his Perseus black peacoat and pulls out a ring box. Only recently everything had felt good, and now it's so sad. Talking about funk, aesthetics and futurism with the photographer wife of a young real estate developer under the window, he'd had a feeling this was how it would be all the time now, that it would never go back to normal again. But right now, the kitten's voice from the monolithic speakers says 10,000 times in a row that she's in love, in love, in love. Outside the window, the morning grey permeates the darkness above the ferns, cold and dank. It doesn't feel like before at all, like it applies to Jesper. Just some singer in a studio somewhere. Should probably top up. Just did, and it didn't get better at all. Don't know. Should probably do some anyway. A minute later, a 26-year-old version of Jesper de la Gardie, who has just entered the Major League, stands in the milky grey light in the middle of the room. His coffee-coloured dress shirt is unbuttoned, his nostrils are red, and his lips are pursed angrily. Hey, the party is over. Go home. No one can hear him. Fucking guff is too loud. With the Stereo 8 format magnetic tape player's stop button under his finger, a pillar of light stands in the middle of the sudden silence. Heads turn. Party's over. Go back home, you scum! Jesper's mouth, sunken into a monstrously disdainful arch, and his glassy eyes accompany the embarrassing exit, the search for clothes and handbags. A fellow visionary pats him on the back, and in return receives the sort of bottomless, abyssal look that ruins interpersonal relationships for eternity. The young real estate developer's photographer wife lags a little behind the group in front of the house, and then turns back under the concrete roof of the cube. My anklet, she lies. Long, strap-shoed legs with a silver chain around the ankle frame this next sombre scene. Jesper is sitting among the garbage sorting bags scattered in the kitchen corner. Amidst apple cores, empty water bottles, and paper bags for handmade pasta, he looks into the kind face of the real estate developer's wife. The sea spray fogged September beach behind his eyes communicates that Jesper is not interested. Your sympathy? No, thank you. Reeds rustle in the wind. The silhouettes of changing cabins stand in a line under the bleak white sky. 4 girls run over the sand and vanish into thin air. In his right hand, the interior designer is holding a light pink scrunchie. Khan looks up at Jesper, the ring box under his nose. His eyebrows are furrowed worriedly. A jolt goes through the cabin as the machine stops. The taxi driver pokes his head from the driver's compartment into the salon, but then quickly turns away, seeing the expressions on the faces of the group.
The smell is gone.
Says Khan. I know.
There's something very wrong with it.
I know. Chapter 3. Non-entity. The Roman Gorod Conference defines 10 different types of missing persons. The ninth of them, non-entity, is a gross violation of the International Declaration of Human Rights. Such a person has not only been eliminated by some violent state body, but the documentation of their former existence has also been made to disappear. This special case of political fading, cursing of the memory, has been inflicted on a number of historical figures with varying degrees of success. In the case of the country of Mesk, for example, a loss of as much as 10% of the historical scale of its entire culture can be statistically established. We will not dwell on the successful examples. It would be impossible to talk about a day that did not exist. But we all leave behind small traces, and the censor is only human. Thus it may happen that the obliterated citizen becomes, thanks to their non-entity, a significantly more recognised historical figure than their colleague, who was simply shot in the head behind a waste dump. What other prominent narrative could have saved the Samaran Communist Party cutthroat Julius Kosinski from the obscurity of history, if not that funny photo? As recording technology has developed, even more complex processes have been added to the craft of filing the emperor's head off of coins. For a well-oiled, degenerate bureaucratic worker state, it's not exactly difficult to do a little spring cleaning of its punch cards. But in the case of photographs, and also some particularly curious examples in the age of film material, the cleaning takes on a certain shade of technical finesse, one that we can admire in the above-mentioned disappearance of Commissar Julius Kosinski, who, under the retoucher's magic wand, vanished from aboard the steamer Mazov on that sweltering Sunday morning. Julius was a nasty person, an uneducated peasant. His young eyes did not see the world revolution. The Commissar's meteoric rise began later, in Samara. Not having the slightest clue of Mazov's ideals, he was careless in giving his victims titles with a politically accusatory connotation. This ultimately proved fatal for him. One day, apparently, the chairman of the Presidium Kosinski just couldn't stand this embarrassment. "Tell me, Kuzhna, how can it be that Comrade Storov is a counter-revolutionary, when the revolutionary already happened over 50 years ago? And why are Comrade Bronsky's Mazovian Keniskian beliefs irreversibly narrow-minded? I'm Kosinski, Sapamat Kosinski. That's my name." In certain circles, these two photos, the original and the retouched side by side, have become a pop cultural phenomenon. The rat-faced smile that Kosinski conjured on his face that day adds spiritual value to the curiosity. Well, look at him! Who wouldn't want to wipe this nasty weasel from history? An even worse fate befell the third figure in this photo, Aram Ukotomsky, Mazov's faithful revolutionary friend for the 11-day government, an eminently talented agronomist, geneticist, and one of the three breeders of the Ulan yellow potato variety. A rare apolitical figure whose unassuming behaviour and irreplaceable contribution to the table of the world's working class saved him from a total of 3 rounds of cleaning. That is, until Ukotomsky's scientific impartiality offended someone's feelings at the 21 plenum of geneticists. It turns out that modern genetics is simply not compatible with Keniskian tabula rasa philosophy, where in a state of revolutionary spirit, even gooseberry seeds can be convinced to become figs. With horror, Ukotomsky found himself likening himself to a small plasticine snake when speaking before the Presidium. Having never written criticism about himself before, the poor scholar overextended himself so blatantly that even in the then lush, self-deprecating atmosphere, it was difficult for those present to listen to his words. Since this memorable performance, Ukotomsky's name has been attached to the epithet of bootlicking. The historical character having been completely compromised, the merciful Chairman Kosinski decided to spare the memory of his older and once more worthy comrade. By the 9th process, he was sent behind the waste storage, and later, all traces of Ukatomski's existence were eliminated. But the history falsification failed. The retouchers absent-mindedly left one remarkable photo of Ukatomski in it untouched, the same photo from which Commissar Julius Kaninsky entered oblivion earlier. Technically, however, the most impressive story is Ignas Nilsson's fall from the cannon, a Mazovian schoolteacher turned prophet. Likewise a significant figure in the history of the communist movement, he became a disembodied spirit under the hands of Vasa's censors. The character of Marzov's apocalyptic shrike suddenly became somewhat burdensome for the image of the social democratic North. That's how they engineered the disappearance of Nilsson Revgrad, which had recently repelled the revolution. To the dismay of the censors, dozens of hours of film footage of Marzov had been captured during the technically progressive 11-day government, where the revolutionary icon was almost always accompanied by his best friend and comrade in arms, Nilsson. Destruction of all material would have raised suspicion. That's how it came to be that a ghostly grey cytoplasm is permanently floating in Marzov's right hand. It took decades for historians to solve this blood-curdling mystery. Even today, many believe that the cytoplasm is communism itself. Chapter 4. Vidkun heard. 12mm film buzzes in the projector. On the couch next to the white fabric screen, Khan sits next to Majek, staring in disbelief at his square coffee cup on a square saucer. He picks up the spoon to stir in the sugar and carefully approaches the cup. In Cafe Kino, everything is made of glass, or white. The chair where Jesper sits and fiddles with the projector is white. The soundproof walls of the booth are made of glass. The sign on which the white fabric screen falls is made of glass. The sofa where Khan and Majek feel uncomfortable is white. There's a stuffed albino tiger in a glass cage in the middle of the cafe. Just make sure you don't break anything. It will cost you dearly. Let me guess. The agent twists the Astra between his fingers until it's as soft as he likes. Your design? One of my students. This place is like a movie screen, a white sheet. We have been projected here, you know? What is it like to be? It's not at all cinema screen. Do you understand? Yes, I do. It's uncomfortable. The boy's a bit jittery, sure, but he's talented. He needed this sort of high visibility project. And this is the only place where you can quickly get behind a projector. So I try, to be open-minded. Jesper, together with the tiger, looked towards Khan. The tiger's glass eyes were an even brighter blue than the interior designer's.
Hey man, I am.
Majek takes a pencil and a notebook from his jacket pocket. Well then, begins Jesper, a relative of one of my co-workers works as an operator, makes dogs. Last fall he told me about his new project, with Gessel. Do you know Comrade Gessel? He mainly does criminal stuff, doesn't he? Not exclusively. Gosta, that's the name of my operator, tells me how he's afraid to do it and asks me if he should. He has a child at home too now, and so on. The point is that the film is about, and this is where I get interested, Vidkun heard.
Oh my god.
Enough about Vidkun heard. Wait, I agree it's a well-worn topic. He was in Arda then, he couldn't possibly be in Vasa, and so on. But I still thought I'd keep an eye on it, And then, 2 weeks ago, Gosta comes to talk to me. Tells me they're on the verge of a breakthrough here. They've been sitting down with Vidkun heard in Kronstadt for the past 6 months.
No way.
And they allegedly have a strategy there. They impress Heard. Vidkun likes Gessel. Gessel is Nordic, right as snow, well-read and a good debater. So, Heard wants to impress the interviewer and starts chatting. Bragging. Gessel gives the impression that these rapists with a wild imagination have been seen before. That Vidkun heard is just a small player. Yes. For the first 3 months, Vidkun just hints, arouses interests, references unverifiable dates, talks about going to the beach. Gessel doesn't even notice. He discusses philosophy with Vidkun, about overcoming good and evil. I have it all written down here. Jesper pats the folder on the cube-shaped glass table. Then one day, Vidkun has had enough. The man flicks the switch and the small bulb at the heart of the projector lights up. I have to warn you now. He looks in Khan's direction. Those of us whose profession does not include ditches and missing children could take some of Vidkun's words to heart. Tereesz pours a 6 spoonful of sugar into his black coffee and pauses for a moment. After a noticeable beat of silence, he sticks his needle-sharp HB pencil into the pencil sharpener and pretends to be busy with it, an awkward smile on his face.
Dude, where are you going to get it? Ditches and missing children, that's our subject too.
Okay, Khan, sighs Jesper. Ditches and lost children. It is my topic. To ditches and lost children? Tereesz cheerfully raises his sugar-filled coffee cup in the air and waits.
Skull!
Exclaims Khan. Skull, Jesper states, and fishes the lime slice out of his glass of water. He chews on it, his brow thoughtfully furrowed at the sour taste. The tape, Jesper. Ugh. Superhuman. Rapist. Child rapist. Former member of Heimdall, the fascist party of NFD. Vidkun Herd appears on a white screen. With one hand cuffed to the chair and the other resting genteelly on his cheek, it's clear the philosopher of the future is aware of the presence of the camera. Mindful of it, he raises his northern bulldog-cheeked chin to a certain noble angle. There he casts glances up and down from the recesses of his eye sockets. Hair carefully combed to the side according to the 30-year-old fashion, and one leg resting across the other knee. Vidkun could be said to be a vain man. Refusing to go down in history in his colour-coded prison overalls, he converses with Konrad Gessel in his black shirt uniform. That had been just one of his many conditions.
Some people are born posthumously,
he exclaims in the ancient Arden dialect. Archaic idiom, he injects an abundance of rural charm into modernly refined sentiment. The 6-digit clock on the table shows that the 3rd hour of the August 12th interview is in progress.
Did you know, Vidkun, that I've done a master's thesis on the old Arctic languages? I can smuggle in some literature for you.
Oh, that would be very nice of you, Konrad. You know how I feel about the selection of the library here.
They both chuckle to signal understanding.
Arden is the natural language of our tribe,
continues Vidkun in a declarative tone.
This vocabulary was adapted and developed by ancient mammoth hunters who settled in the slopes of Katla millennia ago. Arden has certain significant advantages in the basic matters of love, of wisdom, advantages that continental languages lack. Arden is our nature, the modern Varson, a metropolitan bastard, regressed to continental, imbued with grad. This diluted language is incapable of expressing truth. All the sentences in this dysgenic compote ultimately express the same thing. International gibberish. The next 100 years will see our tribe return to its original language. This will give birth to a new era in terms of love of wisdom.
You've talked about it quite a lot. I also read your notes on the subject. It's all very interesting, but don't you think that your own historical character is sabotaging the finer points of your doctrine?
What?
Herd's eyes suddenly light up. The deep furrows on his cheeks widen, and his mouth snarls in disdain. Konrad pretends not to notice Vidkun's temper and continues.
While I see the logic in your observations, don't you think it's hard for people to see the scientific validity of it coming from the mouth of a convicted child molester?
Mating is a completely different practice for our tribe than the social porn propaganda of the modern century, with its romance and whatever else it is feeding us with. You know that, Konrad. One day, when their impotent morals have led the continental nations to extinction, you will then realize what I am telling you.
Well, let's look at it from an ordinary citizen's perspective.
An ordinary citizen lets his daughter go to school with kips and koikos ever since she was a child in a racial cauldron. An ordinary citizen lets his child be raped by ruberoids there. You understand that this is how it is when 4 girls are sent to such a school.
Konrad does notice what slipped from the philosopher's lips, but ignores it.
The ordinary citizen is the one you will consider your reader in the future. The ordinary citizen chooses whether your vision will be put into practice or not. You're talking about the nation. And do you really think he won't notice? The author is a fascist.
Nationalist.
A fascist and methodical rapist with a life sentence in Kronstadt for at least 4 murders and a book that's a mixture of philosophy of history, eugenics, and rape.
It's about history. About history, Konrad. You're a smart man, but your pansy education shows. You still think that history is done through masters' feces and such.
Well, what is it made with?
The experienced interviewer doesn't lose his cool.
By raping?
Vidkun snatches a page from Gessel's notepad. A guard in a dark blue uniform jumps into frame after the sudden movement and hits the tribesman on the wrist with his rubber baton. Herd yelps in pain. The paper flies into the air. 3-time Oscar Zorn Award nominee, world-famous documentarian Konrad Gessel raises his hand in the direction of the prison guard. He lowers the baton, but remains alert next to the man stroking his wrist.
Pen.
Vidkun looks angrily in Gessel's direction. Clenching the writing stick in his fist, the prisoner casts triumphant glances towards the guard.
You, if you'd be so kind, hand me my page too.
The rubber baton has already risen menacingly into the air when Gessel tears a new sheet from the notepad and places it on the steel table in front of Herd.
See now? Cross-breeding.
Vidkun's carefully combed hair has become tangled in the struggle, and a single light brown strand hangs in front of his eyes. Keeping the page from sliding with his elbow, Herd tries to put the pen on the paper. It feels sharp and dangerous in his hand. The man suddenly gets angry.
Please release my other hand. I can't do it like this.
At Gessel's pleading look, the guard takes the key ring from his belt. Now Herd directly addresses the viewer.
Thousands of years ago, our ancestors came here to the land on the edge of the world. They came here on dog sleds through the insurmountable pale. Only the strongest-willed specimens retained their sanity during this heroic transition. Weak-spirited, continental specimens were left behind at the mercy of the pale. Our disciplined ancestors simply separated them from the herd, those who lost their minds. Thus, only the Harkons and Gudruns, with a purified, steadfast soul and unbreakable will, stepped onto the grey soil of Katla. In half a century, these primogens hunted all the mammoths of Katla to death. They flourished.
Vidkun Herd triumphantly stretches his freed hands and continues to draw tiny dots on the sheet of paper.
This is elementary eugenic law, Konrad. Elementary. The more challenging the environment, the further the human develops from step mural form. Here in the dark, snowy expanse, man is not meant to live here. Simply to survive, a superhuman tendency must arise.
Gessel lifts his shoulders in anticipation, but he doesn't interrupt, and nods in understanding.
The superhuman tendency is not limited by moral anachronisms. Superhuman tendency is Wade lust. Everything is possible for him. Nothing is forbidden. True blood in the dark of night, from one winter to another, it passes from generation to generation. You too, Konrad, have a superhuman tendency in you.
Konrad nods. An unhealthy redness spreads on Vidkun Herd's face. The redness is somewhere between a fever and an allergic rash.
All of us, including you, are obliged to amplify this primordial being in yourself, like the jaws of a predator that grow together as they chew meat. The duty you have to the litter, that they too should have big jaws, the kind that can hold a lot of meat.
Vidkun admires the artwork, with a proud smile that in no way wants to match his face. The camera can't yet see exactly what's happening on the page, but Gessel reclines closer to the picture.
A rare creature. The middle one of them. A unique treasure.
The projector buzzes. Jesper takes a wrapped copy of Vidkun's paper from the folder and places it on the coffee table. Something strange is carefully mapped on the page, an elegant constellation of dozens of dots. Khan's mouth drops open in horror. ICP agent Tereesz Mejek, coldly composed, makes a note in his notebook.
You can't imagine, Konrad, how hard I fucked her. You can't imagine,
Vidkun Herd manages to say, before Jesper hastily turns the projector off. June, 20 years ago. The pine forest on the cliff by the beach is dim and cool. The sun is scorching above the tops of the pines, but only a few spots of light reach down here, where the sand is woven into the maze of roots, like the golden floor of the sea. For a moment there is complete silence under the trees. From 100 meters away, you can hear the heather crunching under the sneakers of the approaching boys, until the sea breeze rustles the pine needle ceiling again. The trunks of the trees sway slightly, a maze of dark orange columns, sides streaked golden from the sun. The sweet smell of tree sap floats beneath the forest, the dusty aftertaste of chamomile, a sweet and bitter bouquet in little Tereesz's nostrils. A match is lit, the thick puffs of smoke rising from the astra he stole from his father sweep away all other scents, framed cleanly in a single beam of light. Tereesz is enjoying himself, his windbreaker under his head. He practices making smoke rings in the glow of light. Just a few kilometers from here, in the settlement, is his father's diplomatic villa. That house, so close to the popular summer beach, had suddenly made Tereesz a popular boy 3 weeks ago, at the beginning of summer vacation. Just as the other's footsteps become clearly audible from behind the hill, Tereesz blows a small ring through the big billowing smoke jellyfish. "Oh, I did it!" he exclaims, demolishing his masterpiece. "What?" asks Jesper, who has reached the hill, in shorts and a sailor's shirt. "What did you manage to do? The smoke ring went through the second one. You smoke now?" Jesper is shocked. "Want some? Astra. It's the strongest."
Give me, Tereesz. I'll have one.
The bellowing Khan reaches Jesper's side. A pair of binoculars hangs from his neck on a leather strap. "There." Tereesz tosses the package towards Khan, who fumbles with it. With his tongue sticking out from the effort, he secures the package without dropping it and examines it through his glasses.
Cool.
Is Khan's professional assessment of the box. The white stars slide along the sky-blue cardboard. "Pointless," says Jesper out of the corner of his mouth, and steps ahead of Tereesz to examine the land on top of another hill. "That shirt of yours is pointless." Tereesz lazily lifts himself up on his elbows and offers Khan a light from a matchbox. Jesper narrows his eyes and raises his hand to his face like a captain, examining the forest floor in front of him. "Pointless, Annie didn't think so. You know, she complimented me on it, on the last day." "You think?" Jesper turns to Khan. The boy smokes like a beginner. "Listen, Khan, do you remember in the wardrobe, Annie said this is a beautiful shirt?"
She did. Tereesz, she did say that.
Pheasant jumped in like a bug and told Annie for me that she has a beautiful dress, and something about her hair, too. It was very funny."
An opportunity to polite is never missed.
Khan says with a smile, and coughs out some smoke. "Let's go." The 3 boys move up towards the bank in the glimmering patches of light under the trees. Khan throws away the smoke with an unsuccessful flick and begins twirling his binoculars on their strap. His backpack shakes as he accelerates down the descent. Running down the slopes, most of the boys jump over the heather bushes. Only Jesper, worrying about his white trousers, strolls with dignity, hands in his pockets as if on an evening walk. The rumbling of the sea grows in the trees the closer they get to their usual spot on the cliff. There are signs posted on the log fence marking the danger of collapse, depicting a man falling down a precipitous slope. Together as a trio, they try to keep the conversation as academic as possible for the third week in a row, in order to impress everyone with the character of their business when they come back in the fall. Jesper, lagging behind as he moves cautiously through the bushes, continues in the same spirit. We didn't have such a word as ocean in Katla. For us, everything was a sea. A vast aquamarine body of water spreads out in front of the boys from the high cliff edge. Clouds are breaking in the pale blue sky. The bright shining sun is reflected as a streak down on the water. The ocean waves lazily and majestically wash a long strip of sand there. Charlotteshire. The wind disappears for a moment, and a wave of heat hits the boys in the face. Insects emerge from the foliage of blooming cinnamon rose bushes. The beach under the cliff curves long towards the sea, all the way to the Havsangler Hotel at the top of the peninsula. There are small human spots on the sand with red and white striped parasols. The boys take a seat on the patch of grass between the cinnamon rose bushes, where the crumbly sandstone cliff quickly disappears from sight. Many times Tereesz has theorized how one could basically jump down along this soft rock slope. He would land on the sand embankment that levels off 3 meters out, and from there he would slide on his heels. Jesper worries about how his clothes would hold up in such a case. Khan just stands out for his cowardice. Even now, Tereesz sits closest to the edge, while Jesper knocks the binoculars out of Khan's hand. Spots of the sun are reflected on the curved eyelets of the unit. In the dark, cool heart of the glass, the image of people on the beach below, of summer Nordics with their towels and parasols, amplifies. The image sharpens in turn to be acceptable for Khan, the left +7 and the right +4. Khan bought the binoculars with his own money, in Vasa, from a hunter's shop. Once Jesper has also given up scanning the beach, it's Tereesz's turn. With the rubber nose pads pressed into his eye sockets and cheeks, more and more freckled from the sun, tight from squinting, he has to say, I guess not yet. It's only 10 o'clock. They will come. While Khan and Tereesz compare the smoke brands, the Varsan trash is too light, the Grad stuff stronger still. Khan nods excitedly and praises everything. Jesper aims the binoculars at the beach like a sniper scope, this time relentlessly. The crosshair lands on the white parasol, but does not find the red flowers it is looking for. Vertical lines move over young families, collapsing sandcastles and brown-bodied sun orbiters, stop at 2 blonde girls, but then slide on. It's not them. Must have drifted too far. Jesper focuses closer. Somewhere from 200 meters away, a familiar premonition, a distant constellation, a vastness of matter emerges in the dimness of his heart. He waves his hand to let the boys know something's going on. Khan and Tereesz shield their eyes from the sun with their hands and look down at the beach. Refining the focus of the Zool lenses once again, the pale pink veil sharpens into a belly in Jesper's eyes. Breathing shakes the eye specks from the girl's navel above the solar plexus, where the curved line of the chest converges into a ring, holding together the top of a 2-piece bathing suit. White ribbons cut the skin on her shoulders, and the prepubescent breasts under the tricot fabric rise when the girl breathes. The wheel clicks twice at the point where the viewing tubes converge, and in the expanded field of vision, on a beige beach towel, the girl turns onto her stomach. Her ash-blonde head of hair and familiar round cheeks flash under a pair of sunglasses. Lazily, Anni-eiln Lund raises herself on her elbows and buries her face in a girl's magazine. Above her small butt, a curiously fine constellation of birthmarks begins, running up her back to her wing bone. Cold horror seeps through the seals of the windows into the Kino Cafe, where 3 minds are trying to maintain the surface tension of their coping for the 20th year. Khan shrugs his shoulders.
Who knows this? Who knows? I haven't read a single line about it all this time. It said nowhere.
Tereesz puts his pencil on the table. Such a thing is called a control fact. It is intentionally left out of a person's identification folder, even from the official documentation. I have these 3 folders in my head. There is not one line about it. He knows that. Look at him! Jesper's face remains clear. For him, this is all a stage that has already been passed. That's why this ghost act came to me. The officials simply shrugged. Perhaps he heard somewhere at work that I knew the girls. They were all quite confused there. Heard also does not explain further. And by the way, I don't believe that shit. He had some boys there because of some principle, but Heard prefers big-breasted Gudruns.
It doesn't fit the profile. It's not chronologically possible.
Khan perks up.
He was 600 kilometers away 5 hours earlier, blowing crankshafts and gaskets for his damn rape machine. I don't know, some kind of gasket plugs.
After the construction noise of the infamous rape machine, Vidkun Sterber finally called the police, and that was the beginning of the end for him. Inayat Khan, on the other hand, looks at the ICP agent with seriousness in his eyes.
Tereesz, you have to reopen the case now. Continue the investigation. Somehow he has to know, and is the only credible lead since the stuff with the letters. You have to do it.
You cannot imagine how bad things are now. This is the worst time to dig out any old stuff. There's no more support for Mundi, half of everything is in a state of war. Nobody knows if, for example, Orangeric still exists. They'll let me go if I start this shit. No, but Tereesz, you could still do something about it. Jesper, slightly irritated, is not interested in the impending world war. You do this! It's your job! Do it! Now wait you two! Course I will. I had that feeling right from the start when you invited me to your class reunion thing. Do you really think I thought you were nostalgic? I never have this folder open all the time. You know this folder never closes. You just have to hope the locals will take it easy. They hate the co-op anyway. Very rarely does anyone bother to check whether any interrogation papers have been signed there. Khan smiles slyly.
Interrogation papers? So you're still going to Kronstadt?
Tomorrow.
Good to know you're still cool, Tereesz.
Jesper smiles too, slightly uncomfortable with his flushed cheeks and pressing tone. Hardcore! That's fine then. Tereesz agrees. This is a very good thing. 20 years. There should be no hope left after all that time. But is there still hope then? Jesper intelligently tilts his head, which is still a little too big for his shoulders. Yes. Very good, Jesper. You have been very good. Bill! The interior designer, who's been out of active work for the past 2 years, snaps his fingers at the waitress and points his index finger at the table. Nights have not come easily to him. But today everything is different. Tonight, Jesper can treat himself to small sweets. Silly little treats. There's a night outside the window of the cube, in the dark, where everything is possible. It is also possible that somewhere in the hidden corners of this world, under the permafrost of Lake Vostok, or in the Erg Desert, where Ramut Karzai disappeared without a trace, deep from the lungs of Grad. Somewhere they can still be found, as they were then, as little ones, and thereby also become small again. Above the clouds, at the foot of the Corpus Mundi, you only have to lift the veil of raindrops just a little, and you will touch them. How good you were for not giving up. Everyone else kept forgetting about us. The night sky was dotted with cold stars. The dark blue dome of the sky swirled above our heads. But we knew you were still looking for us. Chapter 5. Zaum. Anni-eiln takes off her sunglasses and is blinded by a flash of light. The green-yellow-blue colour splash in the girl's irises scatters across her pupils. Her smoky eyeshadow sparkles in the light. Her deft head turns like a kitten's. The solar reflection jumps from her girl's magazine to the sand, from the sand to the parasol, as the girl follows it with her eyes. "What's going on?" Tereesz asks, dangling his feet over the edge of the cliff. "I don't know. Malin is also there now. She's standing up."
That's what I can see from here, that she's standing.
Khan interrupts impatiently. "She's standing, and I've got to admit, she doesn't look too bad in that wet swimsuit. 2 pieces is their custom, and... Oh, she's still... Fuck! The arch of Malin's mouth in the binocular's eyepieces turns to a grin, an evil flash of teeth. Her hand rises from shadowing her eyes to a demonstrative wave above the head. The image disappears as Jesper hides the treacherous lenses under his stomach. Down! Get on the ground! Khan hears blood rushing in his ears and feels a vein throbbing under his arm, his body pressed halfway into a prickly rosebush. Tereesz, who in his haste simply flopped on his back, is looking up into the pale end of June sky. High above him, a lone white-tailed sea eagle glides on the breeze. It seems as if the bird is just hanging in the air. Gone! Look, an eagle!
What fucking eagle? Ow!
The rosebush suddenly reminds Khan of its presence. Don't twitch! You're shaking the bush! Jesper grumbles, lying between them with the binoculars underneath him.
Well, if they've already seen us, then it doesn't make much difference whether I rustle the bush or not. Hey, look what they're doing.
See for yourself. Jesper slides the binoculars over to Khan. The bush shakes again as Khan, in his baggy summer shirt, drags himself out. He gets up on his elbows and carefully crawls towards the cliff edge, binoculars in hand. With them raised to his face, he tries to remain invisible by hiding behind a tuft of grass. Quickly, the binoculars shift to focus on a parasol with red flowers on the beach below, stopping on the beach towel. There, to Khan's astonishment, little Madge is sitting by herself and looking somewhere ahead. A drop of sweat falls on Khan's glasses. Sensing something bad, he scans closer and closer to the foot of the cliff, until, barely 100 meters away, small theatre binoculars appear, looking directly back into his lenses. Slender Charlotte, the eldest of the sisters, stands there, her other hand on her hip. Her shoulder-length dirty blonde hair flutters in the breeze. This beautiful and terrible creature from the 9th grade is about as far from Khan's immigrant grasp as a seat in Parliament. And now she stands so close that even as she holds out the theatre binoculars to Malin, her gaze still bores directly into Khan's distraught eyes, into his eyes, which he now hides, rather than enhance them with his binoculars.
Good lord, they've got some little binoculars with them.
That's why they pointed in this direction yesterday. I knew I should have said something. What? Tereesz! Jesper suddenly gets angry. They know then, and you just let us walk right into their trap? Well, sorry, I forgot. I thought that maybe they were looking at that eagle. You know, he always has his nest right here near the rock.
You can stick that eagle up your ass.
Of course, Khan starts to laugh out loud at this, and Jesper continues. Now we have nothing left to do but get up from here and wave back, and that's all. I don't know what we're going to say about this fucking binocular situation. I really don't know. I've got an idea. Tereesz stands up determinedly, and Khan grabs at his pants. But soon enough, the 3 skinny-legged girls giggling on the beach see a skinny, blonde-haired guy awkwardly get up next to Tereesz. And then, after a moment, a slightly overweight chap from Ilmara joins them. Hello, girls! Tereesz shouts. Malin gasps and covers her mouth as the tall, slim figure jumps down from the cliff, 4 stories high. The next morning, 20 years later, the wrinkles of fatigue in the corners of the man's eyes curve around his cheekbones. His cheekbones create 2 sharp peaks under his eyes, just like a bird of prey. Furrows on both sides of his cheeks. Wait. Worry. ICP office blinds have long been drawn over his hazel eyes, and no one has the heart to look in, to peer behind them. This ICP agent also has a freshly shaven chin that juts forward a little, and a long grey neck, skin worn from smoking, against the white dress shirt. A thin black tie hangs from the collar. The rain had stopped overnight, but it's still cold and windy. With his left hand he pulls his coat collar closed. With his right, he smokes. In the bow of a small border guard ship, a young Varsan officer stands next to Tereesz with a steaming cup of coffee in his hand. What's in Kronstadt? He asks. Unfortunately, I can't answer that question, Tereesz mutters mechanically, his eyes fixed on the autumn morning horizon. A flock of seagulls rise from the reeds of the docks and screech across the cold water as the boat's engine revs to a start. A splash of fuel oil forms a chemical rainbow in the tin-like water. "Coffee?" The young man tries to pick up the conversation again. "No, thanks." Tereesz feels the drop of water on his face. Refreshing. The sun is not yet visible in the low, grey sky this morning. Only specks of airships circle above the city, and the steel silhouette of the great Grad cruiser hangs like a spectre in the bay beyond. Yarn-spoken, they say. Iron ghosts. No one likes these ominous ships here. Ghosts out of place. On guard, but for what? Who has declared war on who? No one. Nor will Grad win any hearts here with its steel umbrella, and Tereesz, who in the eyes of an ordinary northerner looks, talks and smokes like a Grad man, will not get far here with his talk about Motherland Zimek, the 100-year occupation and the Yugo-Grad massacre. Yes. And also František the Brave. Of course he wanted to be like František the Brave. He still wants to. All Koikos want to be like František the Brave. Take positions. Rise up. Once again raise the flags of the time of Sigismund the Great. Daring. The joy of life, like the rattle of a speeding troika. What happened? A lone border guard ship makes its long streak across the North Sea. The boat sways quite violently in the waves, and soon Tereesz has to throw away his cigarettes so as not to slip on the deck. The poor smoking conditions make shivering outside pointless, so he goes inside to sit hunched on the cabin bench. Moreover, he tries not to look to the other side of the city, down the meandering coastline to where Charlottesville remains. God, how he would like to go. Once he came 4,000 kilometers from Grad on a magnet train through the Pale, didn't call either Khan or Jesper, went straight to Charlottesville and hung around like an idiot. Then he went back home. Another week through the Pale. They had still been quarrelling over the restaurant thing with Jesper, and it seemed pointless to just hang out with Khan. This had been his winter solstice vacation 2 years ago. Such was his holiday. The department psychiatrist banned him from travelling for a year. Apparently it's dangerous to go for the Pale so often. Tourniquet between his teeth, Mezek inserts a syringe made of glass and metal into a clearly drawn-out vein on his wrist. But he would still like to see how the cattails bend in the wind. It's so beautiful to watch the ocean wash up on the beach, quietly and peacefully. Somewhere in the colourless distance is the silhouette of the cliff. And cold water. Raindrops. It's beautiful to look at. Tereesz's veiny hands gently caress the black suitcase in his lap.
Hadra Mutkarzai!
Shouts little Inayat Khan from the edge of the cliff, and jumps. The sun is shining. There's a tickling in the pit of his stomach, as if there is still 100 meters to go, but the fall only lasts a moment. The sand meets him suddenly. After a few rushing seconds, he digs his heels into the sand and the sliding slows down. Little Khan feels a root sting his butt, and stones scratching his back. His shirt is untucked from his trousers. His glasses bounce off his face, and the jubilant freckled Tereesz rushes to catch them below. The girls run towards his battered body.
"You're crazy!"
Annie exclaims from afar. So he has reason to rejoice as well. But not little Jesper. He's up there by himself now, looking back and forth between the steep drop, his white pants, and his sailor shirt. No. He smacks his lips with amused stubbornness, packs the backpack left behind by Khan, and takes a longer route through the forest. He walks at the fastest possible pace, which is a not yet undignified trot. From the footpath covered in pine branches, the boy turns onto the suspension bridge between 2 tall trees, and then goes down the stairs on the other side to the boardwalk. The journey down to the beach seems to take forever. He is already fearfully thinking about the nonsense that stupid Khan is probably spouting. How is he supposed to play along now without coordination? Only after half an hour does Jesper reach the beach, and throws up his arms helplessly next to the girl's empty beach towel. "Sorry, did you happen to see where those boys who jumped down from there went?" He points in the direction of the towering cliff in the background. This old man was asked to look after the girl's things. Jesper decides that wherever they are, they can't be gone for long. Having baked in the hot sun for a moment, he sits down on the flowery beach towel. After debating with himself whether he should take off his shirt, it's getting really hot. He still decides in favour of taste, and lies down on his back on the towel, looking as cool as possible. The coolness lies in that indifferent pose where his arms are crossed under his head. Jesper is more interested in these clouds right now. He's deep in thought, he thinks. And then a tiny atomic unit of perfume seeps into his nose. Maybelle's, breath, human skin explode before his eyes. Jesper turns his head, and over the beige of the beach towel it shines, the fragrant and strange world of girls' things. There are white and pale pink-bowed summer dresses, folded together so terribly neatly, little belts and useless trinkets, Annie's fine bracelet, and basket-weave beach bags holding just the kind of food girls like. Jesper doesn't remember anything about the food that girls like, but it's certain that there's not much of it. Girls don't like to eat. That much Jesper knows. In foolish fascination, he raises his hand to a little bottle sticking out of a small handbag. The fragrance oil bottle is in the shape of a pomegranate. Golden liquid flows behind the crimson glass facets, and Jesper looks on, spellbound. The world disappears. Still holding the bottle in his hand, he doesn't even understand why, but his hand secretly slips a small hair tie into the breast pocket of his sailor shirt. He throws himself on his back again, and looks at the sun through the glass of the bottle. A timeless moment is suspended in the raspberry-red world of the pomegranate, until suddenly, as if out of nowhere, Charlotte's long legs tower over him. Little Madge looks directly into his eyes from Tereesz's shoulders. "What's he doing with your bottle, Annie?" Fiery synapses in Jesper's head begin to make connections as soon as the spell is broken, and he doesn't let his surprise appear on his face. "Revacholière," he pronounces lusciously, and then finishes like an old pro. "Granite, number 3. Very good choice. Strong notes, natural. The juniper berry gives a kind of airy matte finish. No, very good choice, what can I say? Yours, Annie?" Jesper sits up, quiet and undisturbed. Khan and Tereesz look excitedly in the direction of the girls, especially Annie, who's licking her lime ice cream with a little smile.
Mine, yes.
She says, a little cheekily at first, and then becomes more polite.
Your mother works at a perfumery, doesn't she?
It's more like she imports rather than produces, recently. But she's got papers and everything. You know, I've been to the Revachol perfume factory to see how granite is distilled.
You've been to Revachol?
Even Charlotte is impressed. At school, she's something of a goddess, a grade above them, with her expensive clothes and high school boys. And now the goddess's eyes widen in surprise. Jesper's ears start burning. "Once, yes, my mother's co-workers invited her there for an excursion." Tereesz, who in the meantime has held the flag oh so high, thinks that now that the greatest danger has passed, Jesper should be brought back down to earth. "That's why you smell like a flower." Little Madge on Tereesz's shoulders laughs at everything the boy says. He got lucky in that respect. Tereesz never would have thought that he was a child magnet, but now this and the adventurous jump have already kept him afloat for 3/4 of an hour. Khan is completely useless. He catches every third pass from Tereesz, but then he can't do anything with it, and just makes noises. Annie sits down on the towel next to the blushing Jesper.
I think Jesper smells good. Not at all like socks or that changing room.
That place of yours is really awful,
says Malin mildly.
Honestly, it's all von Fersen.
Khan now gets his first point across.
Fersen has these pea socks. It's not normal the way they smell.
Tereesz breathes a sigh of relief. The queue for ice cream was already quite drawn out. Neither Khan nor Tereesz are chatty guys in an emergency, and Tereesz's plan was to bury any talk of the binoculars under perfectly picked eloquent words until Jesper's arrival. Luckily, Madge came to the rescue by begging to sit on his shoulders and chatted non-stop, so everyone started laughing. Now Tereesz feels that it's time to get it out of the way. He lifts Madge off of his shoulders and blinks meaningfully in Jesper's direction, mentioning as if in passing, "You took all the stuff with you? The smokes? The binoculars?" Anni-eiln doesn't go for the smokes hook.
What were you doing with those binoculars over there? We already saw yesterday that something was flashing all the time, like a small mirror. It was exciting.
Oh, just bird watching, There's a pair of white-tailed sea eagles nesting there. Tereesz can barely get started when even Malin flashes a wicked grin. Annie laughs next to Jesper, and Charlotte, the wicked goddess, is even sharper.
Isn't this bird watching popular among gentlemen these days?
Jesper blushes, but somewhere in the freckled abyss of Mezek, František the Brave raises his bold head. It's time! And already he is rushing out of Tereesz's mouth, all caution thrown to the wind, towards the brightest, most unlikely of prizes. As we Koikos do. It's all or nothing. Group Ibex your moya! The whole of Tereesz Mezek turns into a single charming burst of laughter. Well, I guess we saw even rarer birds. More often than not, all or nothing means nothing to us dirty Koikos. But not that day. On that hot sunny day, 20 years ago, Charlotta. Her shoulders move forward, collarbones come forward. Beneath her arched eyebrows, a smile, the light of a distant star, gleams for a microsecond in her cold green eyes. For Tereesz. It says, a chance. Tereesz is so happy. Everything is going so well. The shadows grow, hours pass, the white sand turns yellow, then orange and streaked with shadow. The girls put the beach towels on their shoulders. Little Madge yawns and falls asleep under the blanket. The wind dies down. All becomes quiet. A kingdom. Horse-drawn trams line up at the stop in the background. The echoing screeches of those tracks. Distant music from someone's yard. The beach empties and the sky becomes a blue-violet gradient. There Tereesz tells the girls about his father's diplomatic summer house, his summer plans, about the next day. The changing room shadows grow into ghosts and creep like clock hands on the beach. Bands of clouds rise above the smooth water, their bellies curdled purple, the horizon tinged with cyan, magenta, cooled down deep orange. Malin tries on Khan's glasses. Khan can't see anything behind Malin's big black sunglasses. Only the girls' figures, their head-spinning figures, flutter like an upside-down candle flame.
Bring some apple cider!
Shouts Anni-eiln from the door of the last tram. 4 pale horses neigh. The cabin glows yellow in the twilight, and little Madge, in a white dress with angel wings, sleeps in Malin's arms. A kind fairy godmother's star-shaped wand falls from her hand onto the sandy floor of the cabin. The 3 boys stand at the stop and make gasping faces at each other as the tram rolls down the slope. Warm, sour breath makes the white hotel linen flutter against the linoleum salesman's mouth. Linoleum salesman. Linoleum salesman. Linoleum salesman. With his left hand at his nape, he pulls the double loop of linen into a knot around his neck. The knot is intricate and extremely well tied. The 8th floor balcony door is still ajar, and cool air is seeping into the suite of the Havsangla Hotel. From the balcony there is a magnificent view down to the late evening beach. On the reed floor of the balcony lies a camouflage-patterned telescope, detached from the base with a reflective shutter. Scout model. Behind the telescope is a modified photo camera. On the balcony, and only on the balcony, not in the adjoining room or the hallway, because that's not the way the linoleum salesman likes things. So it's only on this balcony here that he hears the intense wheezing of evil. 20 years later, in the evening, Vidkun Herd stares, distressed, at the droopy ICP agent standing in front of the barred window of the interrogation room. Despicable. Herd wears his grey prison jumpsuit. Vidkun Herd is written on the reflective strip, along with his number and a letter abbreviation. The ICP agent takes off his jacket and drops it carelessly in front of the window. Shirt with sweat stains under the armpits, the agent's movements are uncoordinated. On his chest is a freshly printed badge with a guest identification code. The fan hums.
Ah, look, you're inebriated.
Vidkun looks over his shoulder at the officer standing guard at the door.
The smell of booze is overwhelming. Please take me away from here. I'm not in the mood.
Vidkun smiles and listens to fragments of Mejek's conversation with the officer. 5 minutes. 10 minutes. A child's life is at stake. The door closes behind the guard, and a suspiciously constructed key flashes in Tereesz's hand for a moment.
Majijek,
Vidkun pronounces.
A koiko through and through, like a gavril mongrel, some kind of second-rate lower life form.
Herd's hands and feet are both in cuffs this time, the massive irons pinning his hands awkwardly behind his back. But despite this, he lounges almost nobly. You lied. Who did you get the drawing from? Tereesz's eyes are cloudy. He blinks angrily.
Listen, have you heard of that eugenics study that praises the humble mind of the koiko?
Who did you get the drawing from, pig?
The scholar, you know, recommends in there that your people should be crossed with kips to become super workers.
Shut up! Tereesz pulls the steel curtains on the windows of the interrogation room. Sudden, the shiny blinds fall with a crash, and immediately there's the sound of the officer's keys jingling nervously through the keyhole.
Idiot. You want to go to prison, don't you? We follow the Declaration here. We don't have some kind of gradient anarchy.
In the windowless room, in pure iron-grey light, Tereesz Mejek stands and opens his suitcase on the table. Inside the lining fits exactly one iron box, with Zaum written on it in white letters. Herd's sunken eyes come out of the depths of their caves in horror. There is a banging coming from behind the door.
You don't have a permit for this. You must have a permit. Show me your permit.
What did you say? I can't hear you. Some pig keeps squealing. Tereesz hits Herd in the face with the iron box. A thick stream of blood flows onto the chest of the prison jumpsuit. Herd whimpers. At the base of his nose, in the middle of the red jelly, a small bit of white bone protrudes. He faints. The officer's muffled threats sound from behind the door, but Tereesz's diamond key rattles in the keyhole. I am International Collaboration Police Agent Tereesz Mejek, Mirova, Grad. I have the legal right to conduct interrogations, and if you keep fucking with that door... The knocking stops for a moment, and the Zaum clicks open. Everything goes quickly, proficiently, one might say. From the foam padding of the box, Tereesz pulls out a yellow tube with cannulas hanging from the end. He fastens a hideous accordion-like device around his wrist with a belt, and tightens a rubber tourniquet around Vidkun Herd's shackled arm. With a slight twist, he screws the holes onto the apparatus, and then plunges the needle into Vidkun's vein. A tiny red spurt of Herd's superhuman tendency flows directly into the cannula. Running footsteps can be heard from behind the steel-curtained window, heavy boots on the prison floor. Reinforcements. The lid of the device snaps open on Mejek's wrist. A row of ampoules appears, full of yellow liquid like the yellow teeth of a smoker under the upper lip, in a mouth stretched out like a smile. There's a quiet hiss as the first ampoule clicks into place. The bellows on the lid shudder for a moment, and then the apparatus on Mejek's wrist begins to breathe softly like a pet. The piss-yellow liquid is pumped into Herd's wrist. The man snaps his eyes open and starts to gasp in panic. You know what this is? It's arrest, you swine! Tereesz hisses between his teeth, right in front of Vidkun's swollen face. A little blood and saliva splashes from the man's mouth onto Mejek's face as he rolls his eyes in fear and cries,
I lied. You're right. never seen them. My cellmate.
I don't care what you think.
I don't think anything, I'm telling you. I had a cellmate several years ago, Direk.
I don't care what you think. I want your truth. Tereesz's eyes are bulging and terrifying. He yanks the tourniquet from Vidkun's arm, and its veins, swollen from the mesquine solution and lysergic acid, visibly begin to open. Suddenly, Vidkun clenches his teeth so hard that it seems as if they'd break at any moment.
You can't get anything from me. No, you can't get anything from me.
He squeezes madly.
I am so strong.
A battering ram sounds from behind the door. I really like that you think so. It's best if you think so. Tereesz gasps and screws the second cannula to the device. It's for him. With his eyes fixed on his wrist, he jabs the needle into his vein. The first ampoule is empty. The next one Tereesz shares with Vidkun, agitated and stuttering. It's a meat grinder. You can't imagine how I'm going to fuck you with it right now. The urine yellow liquid breaks through Vidkun's blood-brain barrier, and a huge pressure builds up in the top of his head, inside his skull like an air bubble. With the man's face clenched in his hands, Tereesz starts to scream. His voice pops into Herd's head like white noise, pure screaming violence. I'm making you into a cretin. You feeling it? Vidkun's pressurized skull yields to the force of the agent's hands, snapping open like a flower blossom. It seems as if something is born from there. Vidkun's handcuffs rattle helplessly. He tries to grab hold of the living coagulation coming out of his head. Still, pieces of his brain fall through his fingers to the floor. He can't. It's too slippery. There's too much. I can see into your cunt head. You're open in front of me. I'm going to open you up. Tereesz gasps and watches as the whole of Vidkun Herd gapes in front of him. The man writhes under the agent's sharp fingers and tries his best to speak, to tell him what he's looking for, to say it in human language, but his mouth won't produce it any more. And during all the time that Tereesz raids in his head like a tiger in water, in all that time, Vidkun only sees one image from the Tereesz mirror. There, on the cool surface where Vidkun escapes from the devastating butcher's work in his own head, Charlotte Lund's dark green eyes gaze at him. In the depths of her pupil shimmers the chance Tereesz was given. It is so beautiful, and so profoundly sad, that when Tereesz collapses screaming behind the interrogation table, Vidkun begins to cry. The coast of Vasa sparkles before him, and beneath his feet the night waves break on the bow of the border guard ship. A yellowish dome of light pollution glows above the city in the background. It seems indescribably joyous, all those white and yellow city lights fitting in the palm of Tereesz's hand. Even though it's cold outside, he's not wearing his coat. His jacket is wide open, and Vidkun Herd's blood is splattered on his white dress shirt. The ICP agent has his hands comfortably handcuffed. The young officer helps him stay upright up on the deck. "What kind of racket were you causing there?" the officer asks. "If I wrote you a symphony," sounds from the rattling transistor radio inside. "Listen, thank you very much for letting me out here. It's a beautiful evening." "Okay." The officer begins to laugh softly. "If you don't mind, could you turn up the song?" "What?" "I promise I won't jump overboard. Turn it up." "I'm more worried that you'll fall overboard, but all right." The officer steps into the ship's cabin and onto the deck. A massive beat is heard over the noise of the waves and the sound of the engine, and a man's falsetto says, "If I wrote you a symphony, to show you how much you mean to me." Tereesz's foot begins to tap, with the kind of relief he only feels after using Zaum. He sighs to the officer. You know, I just solved the disappearance of the Lund children. The what? You don't know then? But it's very famous. When was that? A long time ago. You weren't even born then. But it doesn't matter. I feel so good inside right now. I think I might have solved it. Tereesz laughs. This laugh is gloomy but sincere. Very sincere. And the night over the North Sea laughs back at him.